Let's go.
Welcome to the Trusted Leader Show. I'm your host, David Horsager. Join me as I sit down with influential leaders from around the world to discuss why leaders and organizations fail, top tactics for high performance, and how you can become an even more trusted leader. Welcome to the Trusted Leader Show. It's David Horsager. Again, I've got a special guest, an amazing gentleman. You're going to have some surprises in store today, but welcome to the show, Ryan Leak.
Man, what an honor it is to be here. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Oh, likewise. Well, you know, a little bit about Ryan. Many of you might know him. He speaks all over the world. He affects maybe 50,000 or more people a month. He is an executive coach. He's an author. He's a filmmaker. We have so many mutual friends. This is fun to finally have a little bit more intimate connection. But there's a couple surprises about you. We just got to get out of the way. If anybody's seen the documentaries, both of the Phoenix Suns, and also tell us just a quick story about this marriage proposal. You proposed and got married the same day after 2 years of planning. We'll get into your book and how that even aligns with really who you are. But tell us about that.
Well, when me and my wife were dating, we dated for 5 years. Year 3, I hear her tell a friend she thought it would be cool to get engaged and married on the same day. Had no idea what that meant. So I guessed and started planning a wedding behind her back. June 7th, 2013, got down on one knee and said, "Amanda, will you marry me?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Just kidding. Will you marry me today?" And we opened up this lounge room door, and about 85 of our family and friends were standing in there with a sign that said, "Today," rolled in a dress, hairstylist, makeup artist, everything that you would need to get engaged and married on the same day. Put that on YouTube. About 4 months later, went viral, got to do a bunch of TV shows and, led to a bunch of fun stuff, which actually is how we actually even got the book, Chasing Failure, because we went on the Queen Latifah show. And on the Queen Latifah show, my wife surprised me by getting me connected with the late, great Kobe Bryant. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening right now? And so Kobe invited me out to Staples Center to just come hang out with the Lakers. And I played college basketball, was an All-American at a D3-ish school. Why I say D3-ish is because our D3 status was pending the years I was playing. And so we were in not the NCAA, we were in the NCCAA, which stands for National Christian College Athletics Association. So I like to say amongst Christians, I was really, really good, but I never pursued the pros. And so getting ready to meet Kobe, I'm thinking, man, I gotta go for this. And I just realized the odds were stacked against me and that I was going to fail. And then I woke up the next day and said, but what's so bad about failure? I mean, isn't this the common denominator of the most successful people in the world? So let's give it a shot. So that is how Chasing Failure, the book, was birthed. And that's a little bit about me.
That's a great start. And you've got 2 amazing kiddos, an amazing wife. Yes. But your whole, if I look at your life and what you're about, you've done some amazing things, but it is marked by this risk-taking, this willingness to chase failure. And I love what you say in the book even. Basically, the people you admire, the people you love, the people you look up to, they all failed. Right. And yet we're all sitting here thinking, we want to get around the failure. We want to, and you kind of make this point of let's chase failure if we want to be like that.
Absolutely. I think we all, let's say we're a songwriter, we all want to write a hit song. You only want to write hits, but you got to write some bad songs to get a hit song. You got to miss some shots to make some shots. I mean, it's all a part of the process. No matter anybody in this world that wants to do anything, they have to try things. And I think the last 3 years, somebody said this to me the other day. They said, I'm not sure if I'm ready for my junior year of COVID. And I just thought, has it been that long? It really has. But I'd like to say the last 3 years have really taught us that if you're not innovating, if you're not thinking outside the box, you may not survive in this marketplace that we work in, because things are constantly changing. And most people don't like change. And COVID-19 did not ask us for permission.
Right.
And so I think people now more than ever have to be willing to try some things and take some risks.
How do you do it? So, you took a risk. Your wife said yes. Oh, lovely story. I get to be on the Queen Latifah show. You took some risks. Sure. There wasn't a huge downside with getting to try it with the Suns, even though you didn't make the team, right?
Sure. Totally.
Even though it was amazing, right? But now, what are you doing to chase failure now? What are you doing? You're getting asked to be, executive coach to pro athletes, and you're getting to speak on some of the biggest platforms in the world. But how are you chasing failure now?
Well, it's the funny thing about, I think, all successful people, not even just myself, is we give the illusion of highlights. We give the illusion that we never have down days, that we never get rejected, that no one is telling us no. There will never be a published list of guests you've requested to be on your show that told you no. It'll never happen.
Right.
For any show. No one publishes that. I get to speak at some really, really great companies. I have a speakers bureau. It's great. They've pitched me to 230 companies this year. Well, sure, 10 to 15 said yes, but what do you think keeps me up at night?
Right.
Those other, so you just think about all of those other 215 that I'm just going, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
What's wrong with me? And so as far as like me and my team go, we're always chasing failure, always trying new things. We came up with this thing the other day called Insta documentaries. And we were like, can we do 60-second documentaries for Instagram? And so we budgeted it out, filmed the whole deal, and it looked great. It sounded great. The script was just bad, and I wrote it. And so it's on me. So you'll never see it, but we tried it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like we're trying to figure out ways to create helpful content that adds value to people's lives. And so this Friday, we are going to a studio. We booked for 4 hours, and literally right before I got on this podcast, the head director is like, "Hey, so what are we doing Friday?" I went, "It's a great question. It's a really, really great question. We're going to try some stuff. We're going to film a lot. What will come out of it is still TBD, but that's what I've been doing my whole life. I've just been jumping off of the diving board and teaching myself to swim. So even with my internal team on the book side of things was, we said, hey, we need to hit New York Times. That's the goal. We're going to hit New York Times. And here's what happened, David. It was like everyone on my team elevated their game. Everyone started bringing their A game because the goal was higher. So the book comes out. We sell more than enough to hit New York Times. You can pull the numbers. You can see how many I sold that week versus the books that were actually on the New York Times. But I doubt the New York Times is going to remove Matthew McConaughey for Ryan Leake at this stage in my career. And so we did not hit New York Times. And that was a bummer for me because we put a lot of energy, a lot of resources into making that happen. But again, my message of chasing failure is easy to write, tougher to live. And we hit USA Today. Yeah. And so my friends are like trying to celebrate me. They're like, dude, you hit USA Today. That's awesome. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not awesome. They're like, what's wrong with you? Come back to the real world. And I'm like, you're right. And I think that is the point of saying, hey, we're going to take a bunch of risks. We're going to try some things, and we're going to see where the chips fall. Because at the end of the day, it's all risky. It's all risky. I mean, I think some people think, oh, I don't want to take a risk because what if I fail? And it's like, well, doing nothing is also risky.
Yeah. I'm much more in that camp. I know it's good to have people alongside me that, pause, think through stuff and all this. So we don't just I bought a company one time, lost everything in 2 weeks for our family just right before my first kid was born. Wow. And, I learned a lot about what we talk about around here, trust. And because I was so quick to trust people often, but there's all those things that create our journey, give us depth. And I would rather be with people that are I am I know I'm a little bit that way. What is it? Ready, fire, aim, but I like to, the movement does build, momentum does build momentum. It's not always the right answer, certainly, but it's one of them. I want to talk about a couple takeaways from this book, and I want to get to what you're working on next, because I'm really excited about that. I'm thinking about that. But let's talk about this quick. There's a whole lot of nuggets in the book. If you don't have it, Chasing Failure, it really gives this, not just permission, but encouragement, exhortation to, like, you know what? You want to be better. You've got to chase failure first. But let's actually, a couple things. The idea of motivational speakers saying, what is it? Never give up. Well, I like this never give up-ish, right?
Absolutely.
True statement. But what about these 5 questions you talk about? Who wants to be a millionaire? There are 5 questions you need to ask yourself to count the cost of your dream. Tell us about it.
So I think it's important that, whatever it is that we're trying to accomplish, one, we need to know why we're doing it. I mean, some people want to do it just because they either want to be famous, they want to be admired by a certain group of people, or maybe they want to be rich, whatever their reason may be. I think you just need to have a good reason, a good why. And I think when most people think of the word million is sort of the gold standard for everything. 1 million downloads, 1 million customers, $1 million, a million. Well, when you think about it, it looks great from a distance until you talk to people who have 1 million followers. That means they also have 1 million opinions. It also means that they could have 1 million critics. I mean, there's so much that comes with anybody that achieves anything million. You look at professional athletes, and they're some of the only people in the world whose salaries are plastered all over the internet. And people look at that and try and like put it in their face and go, look how much money you made this year. And it's like, yeah, depending on the state that they live in, they might get half that, maybe, And so you think about, man, it'd be great to make $40 million and be in the NBA, but you've never written a check for $17 million to the IRS, because that's what a lot of athletes have to do. And so the question that I really pose to people in the book is going, are you sure you really want to be a millionaire? Are you really sure that you want to be as successful as you think you might want to be? Because your relationships change the more success that you have. People feel like you owe them access, that your phone number should be given to thousands of people. And how do you do that? Who do you respond to? You have to build a team. That means you got to be a good leader. There are lots of things on the other side of being a millionaire. So we outline some questions that we think are very important for people thinking about their goals. One of the biggest questions is, how do people that I view as successful, whether they're a millionaire or have 1 million downloads or 1 million subscribers, whatever it is, how do they spend their time? What is their schedule? In my executive coaching practice, I tell people all the time, your calendar will determine the trajectory of your life. What are you spending your time doing? If I'm sitting with a C-suite executive, I'm going, you might think your job is to put out fires, but if that's all you do, you'll never move this ship in the direction you actually want it to go. So you are in control of your schedule. It is not dictated by everyone else around you or the problems. So we have to build leaders to be able to help solve those problems. So you're not a chief firefighter, you're the CEO. And I think about the disciplines that are required at that level. Sometimes it's the resources that you need to, the old adage, the first thing I heard about business is you got to spend money to make money. And most people aren't willing to do that. They want things to be easy. They want a successful person's glory without their grind. They want a successful person's destination without having to wait in line at all. And so I think behind the scenes of any successful person, you hear some stories that you go, you never posted that on Instagram. I never saw that tweet. I never saw that story. And so I think overall, the question that I think all of us should be asking whenever we admire somebody, whether it's on our phone or somebody we actually know. I think we should be asking the question, what does it cost to be you? What don't people see? And I think that's a very, very important question that we should be asking.
Hey everyone, a quick interruption here to share some big news. April 12th through the 14th, you are invited to the Trusted Leaders Summit. What makes a powerful event is bringing together amazing people in a way that actually makes an impact in the world. We're talking about a get-together that is packed with immediately useful content. You'll hear from top leaders like John Foley, the former lead solo pilot for the Blue Angels, Harvard professor Alison Shapira, and more incredible global experts. Get your tickets before they're gone at trustedleadersummit.com and join us in becoming even more trusted leaders. We can't wait to see you there.
That jumps in to really, maybe we'll go back and forth here a little bit, but some of the new work that you're working on and probably inspired by some of your executive coaching and everything else is self-leadership and thinking about how do you lead yourself. Well, I want to ask you first, because I ask this to almost of everybody, because I at least I have found when I'm doing well and in others that I respect, that those that are leading others, and we both have the opportunity to be a part of the lives of presidents of countries and companies, and yet we're flying a load. And I'm thinking about things I did well and things I regret from as my 4 kids are moving on, first one in college this year, and thinking through how would I do this? How am I going to do this next season? Because if you're on a couple hundred flights a year and you're doing all the things you do, how are you leading yourself well?
You know, it's a tension to manage, I like to say. And there are some months I just take off. I don't do anything.
Is that systemized? I'm going to jump in here a little bit. Is that a system? Like I always do that, or I just like, oh, I don't have work, so I'll take this month off. I mean, it's like, how do you, is that a sabbatical every year for a month? Is that how do you do that? I know Ken Blanchard was talking, he said basically, here he is. You know, and I know people that are 80 that should not be talking to anybody anymore. They're saying the same thing they were 40 years ago. And then you have people like Ken Blanchard who are 80 and they're fresh and relevant and capable and wise still. And I think part of it goes to every summer, basically, he is up at the lake with his family, writing, reading, thinking, and he does that as part of his life, but he's got this system every year. What do you think?
Mine's August. It's my birthday month. And my kids are getting ready to go back to school, and that's where I typically retreat. I know that November and April are always going to be what I call gauntlet months for me. It's a conference season. People are always doing, a lot of conventions and seminars and different things like that. So November is even crazier than April because everyone's doing their last meeting before the holidays. And so,
is that absolute? So let me just ask here, is it absolute? Like, okay, hey, here's $250,000 to do this project. Is that an absolute no in August if I call you? Or is that a, well, now we'll shift around and maybe do this because we got that?
For $250,000, for $250,000, we can work something out, and I'll take an extra week off in July. But and again, that's what people don't tell you about success is you think, oh, I would never say no at that level, but you'd be surprised when you have to. And I think the reason it's not so systematic is because, as you understand even more than I do, having older kids, is seasons change and kids are into certain things that you really need to be present in. And so this past summer, my son was in soccer, but he wasn't all that into soccer. And so you're measuring like, how important is it for me to be here? I want to be here. I'm going to do my best to be here. But if daddy can't be here, I don't subscribe to you got to be at every single game, every single event. But I do think that you have to be present. You have to be engaged in what's happening in your kids' lives. It would be a shame if you were winning at work and losing at home.
I say that. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I mean, I want to be a hero at home. And yet we're called to these lives of trying to you know, in our world, change trust levels in countries and cultures and worlds. And I do think there's actually a problem on the other side. It's not an out, but this problem of kid-centric culture, where the kid is the center.
Yes.
If you don't miss a game, you're a bad person, a bad dad. I think that's the worst. One of the best actually, the book, there were some frustrating parts of it that I don't agree with, but this one parenting book I read, one of the key positives was, your child is a welcome member of the family. They're a welcome member they're not the center. And I think we can teach a lot of entitlement and a host of other things. Everything is about them. I think my kids would say, you were present, you were there, you were with me, I'm at certain things I want to be at, but I'm also texting, videoing, doing all these things to stay connected, or trying totally imperfectly. Yeah. I can tell you times I've done, I wish I would have done it differently and all this, but I also am with you that the mark of a great parent, I know parents that are there every day that are not connected to, so.
100%. And I've yet to meet the adult that said one of two things: either I'm successful in my career, or I have a great relationship with my parents because my parents are at everything.
Right.
I've never heard anyone say that, but yet we do have a cultural pressure to be at everything. I'm just going, well, why?
Yeah.
It is not a predictor of a future better relationship or future success. Now, again, complete absence is definitely a future indicator of someone not being successful. But I don't think that's the intent. And so for me, there's seasons where August is we're not doing anything in August. Again, COVID, it's like, hey, will you turn on your computer and do a virtual event for an hour? Sure. It's like, why not? But as far as like, hey, there might be a no travel season. And I'll do that a couple of times a year, actually, where I'll do no travel for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And, my son is now starting basketball, which is a whole different ball game, because it's like, hey, are you going to coach? I'm like, I don't know. This particular season, I told him, hey, I'm not going to coach, but I will be there with a whistle on the sideline, and I'll help out with practices and whatnot. And he and a friend are doing it actually this winter. And I'll be able to make, most of the games, but not all of them. And so, every season is just a little bit different.
What about this? What about routines, like daily routines for you to stay, some of the work you're thinking about is self-leadership. Yeah. What do you, health-wise, faith-wise, family-wise, what are you doing every single day? Are there some routines you have?
I try to take my son to school every single day, and we do a verse of the day. I want his mind to be solid. And, I'd love to say that that's always been a daily routine. In Texas, he just started kindergarten last year, but in Texas, you don't have to go to kindergarten. And because of the back and forth with, hey, you got to be home for 2 weeks, and we just homeschooled him. So, he's only been in school now 2 months. Yeah. So the routine changes, and there's so many different worlds that I'm bouncing in between. I think we long for routine. But one of the things from me, just as a writer and a speaker, I'm reading and writing every single day.
When do you do that? When do you read and write? When's your best time?
It just depends, and I talk about this in my next book, is this trying to be this well-rounded person and trying to score 10s in every area: spiritually, vocationally, marriage, parenting, health-wise, eating healthy, working out, So yesterday I dropped off my son. One of my friends has a gym and a shooting machine at his house and lives, 10, 15 minutes away. And I'm like, hey, can I start paying you and just have a gym membership to come here? And so yesterday felt like a really great routine. And I'm like, I think I could do that. I'm going to try again tomorrow. But then again, in November, it's the gauntlet month. I just don't know that I'll be able to. And I think naturally, I've always been just like a fit person. My metabolism is pretty high as well. And so, but just being in like peak shape is difficult to do also while traveling. And so I wish I had more of a routine, but I would say the thing that is a staple in my life is my to-do list. So every Sunday night or Monday morning, I create a very particular to-do list that is categorized by all of the different buckets that my life has, from speaking, from church stuff to
how many things might be on that in a week? How many things?
I can show it to you. 60.
And what do you what's your percentage of wins of the 60? I know you've got something in the book about just getting a daily win, but what do you have for, like, what's likely out of those? You get all these things, you get 30 done?
So this is one from last week.
Okay.
I would say by the end of the week, if I have 60 things on there, probably 55.
Yeah.
Probably 55. And I'll put some things on there. So, for example, at the beginning of October, I said, you need to write all of your content for November before October's over. And the reason I do that is so that in November, while I'm working a lot, when I do get home, I can really be home and not really need to think about what I've got going next because I already wrote it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I try to do some things ahead of time.
Hey, it's Ken Svensson, producer of the Trusted Leader Show here. That's it for this week's episode. But make sure to tune into next week's episode for part 2 of David's interview with Ryan Leak. In it, Ryan gives us a preview of his 12 questions for self-leadership, talks about the greatest tool for bringing about change in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and he discusses the importance of those in power giving access and opportunity to those who don't. You won't want to miss next week's powerful episode. But that's it for now. Thanks so much for being here, and until next time, stay trusted.